Hi, my name's Laurent. Welcome to Build, our video series about how we use design sprints at Kyan to make digital products. Are we rolling?
Yeah, rolling.
All right, so we're making
a Ferrari F40.
Ferrari F40. Okay. So should we just empty everything out? All right, so we're meant to be talking about sprints as well.
Yep.
I guess we started
about a year ago.
Yeah, what was it, like November 2018, I think was the first one. So we've had just over a year of doing sprints. And what was the number of sprints we did last year? Can you remember?
High 20s, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a mix doing them here in the studio and obviously heading out as well to kind of help other innovation foundries understand sprints and get their head around it so they could do their own. So yeah, it's definitely something that we're branching out and doing a lot more of now.
Yeah, so I think internally we probably did what, 7 or 8?
I think it was 8.
And then the rest on site with clients.
Yeah.
I don't know, did I do any on site ones? But I think the good thing about doing it here is obviously like just being able to get everyone involved and the energy it brings into the studio and getting clients in here with us.
Yeah,
it means it's really good.
I think design-wise it's massively helped as well. Removing that kind of big reveal where you maybe set off and you go and do your own thing and then you show them and they might have their own opinions, whereas I think the sprints from a design point of view has really kind of helped us have this kind of shared vision from the very beginning. And yeah, it's really useful just to have everybody in the room, get the ideas, learn what they like, what they don't like straight away, rather than doing some guesswork and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and I guess them being on hand and working that closely together, it means when things do not quite go right, it's just responded to and talked about and fixed a lot quicker than if you kind of wait for the next meeting, which might be a week or so away. Yeah,
and I think that workshop atmosphere as well, you get people involved that in meetings they might be super quiet or still awesome at what they do, but they might not naturally be huge conversationalists, and then a design sprint kind of doesn't force you to, but it gets you involved because your skill set kind of, I guess what you're looking to do is kind of gather a lot of people who each have unique skill sets, and then if you get a product designer involved, their voice is going to contribute to one true voice in a way. So I think over 5 days you bring quite a lot of opinions together to create something really, really good. Certainly to set something off anyway.
It's definitely a good leveler in terms of like you might have some senior people in there and mix of different experience levels, but actually everyone has to kind of contribute, and it's all quite, the whole voting and doing work and then presenting it back to the whole group. It's just quite a make sure everyone's voice gets heard, and you kind of tackle. Whereas if you just have a really strong technical person, then you'll tend to maybe solve those problems earlier rather than actually tackling the design stuff or the strategy stuff with the same amount of detail. It's that proper kick-starting of a project. Like before, in a way, kind of before design sprints, we still did that discovery phase of like how to start a project, and you try and get people in the room, but without that like really structured workshop style. Sometimes it would take us months to kind of get all that information to be able to start properly, because you're trying to get everyone's time, everyone's busy, and when you do get it, you don't necessarily always make best use of that time, and if it's split out over a longer period, then there's always that kind of first half of your meeting is getting everyone back up to speed with the decisions that have already been made, and sometimes you review those decisions and you make changes, whereas like sticking it all together, condensing it, it just means that velocity in that first week is so much quicker.
think just going back to design sprints, I think it's something that the clients have got used to pretty quick as well. I think whether they've come over from the States or just out of town, they've definitely left on the last day pretty knackered. It's quite an exhausting, intensive way of getting through things, and I think we all definitely go for a beer on a Friday, and they're pretty beat as well.
Yeah, I guess it's that intensive nature, isn't it? Like, you're constantly going from one activity to the next. It means there's always, always stuff to think about. You don't have much downtime, and in the ones I've done, Harry normally sets everyone homework on most nights to go away and like come back with ideas for stuff. So. So let's talk a bit about the like specifically on the design front.
Yeah.
Like, how does it change how your team works now? Because I guess that it kind of dovetails into the change in roles in terms of like moving from being a designer to a product designer. We kind of made that change at the same sort of time, didn't we? As taking on design sprints.
That's right, isn't it?
What, the holes?
I guess the arches.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think when we first started doing sprints, there was kind of, in many ways, quite a lot of basic, commonsensical things to get your head around. But when you got into the swing of doing it, you suddenly realise there's not really, you can't really imagine going back to how you worked previously. I think from the design team, there's always lots of assumptions kicking around, and it's very easy for us to kind of think, oh, I've got the solution in my head. I'm gonna put it out there. Fingers crossed. Hope it does the job, which is fine. And I think without kind of restricting the creativity, the design sprints enable us to keep doing our stuff from creative aspect, but I guess collect and collate all the opinions from everybody else to make sure that the assumptions are kind of semi-answered. I guess you can't ultimately answer all the questions with a design sprint, but it definitely sets you on the way, and certainly from a creative angle. And I guess the way we tackle it, we have 2 days to kind of bring together, like, it is quite
a big change.
It's a bit,
like when you look back at what we output now in 2 days, that we used to quite happily like spend a week or two, like one person would be sat there kind of coming up with a creative direction and thinking about the brand, and now it's like, okay, like 2 working days, and we want to have something we can put in front of people and test.
You're reassured that your ideas are kind of bringing something together. I've come way off of this. You're reassured that the client's input's already being acknowledged and is going into the design ideas, but at the same time, it is quite fast-paced, 2 days to kind of get something together that I guess we've learned that we sometimes over-deliver, and we do want to still deliver the best stuff we can, but in 2 days it's all about getting something structured and usable that we can put out on the Friday to get user tested. And I think that was a learning curve for me, to just realise that in those 2 days it's not about bringing something together that's going to propel you into like an awards site, but it is about getting something nice together that the client's going to, I guess, like be prompted to see a vision in and want to invest in, and at the same time get feedback on, so we can take it into an MVP.
Yeah, it's definitely a different mindset to that kind of sitting down and doing your best creative work. It actually ends up being.
Yeah, if we could do our best creative work in 2 days, we'd be rolling in money.
Right, how's your chassis going?
It's looking good. It's probably an unpopular opinion, but I don't think they're that pretty. I sat in one, and the door handles on the insides are pieces of rope, because they're trying to like save weight, and it is just a rope, which is fair enough, but think there's nicer cars out there. It's pretty rare though. It's been, over the year, I think everyone in the design team's had a go at Design Sprint now, and the feedback's always been really positive. A unique challenge, and like they're not able to, well, they don't need to get involved in everything, but when they kind of have an opinion or need to contribute to the design, it's always been a really good output. I think getting all the product designers more and more involved with the workshops and design sprints is just how we're evolving as a business, really. And that design thinking at the beginning is I guess where we're kind of trying to navigate as well.
It's actually like chatting and doing the Lego at the same time is trickier than it looks. I guess it's also, like, I imagine being quite a learning curve for the design team in terms of, like, it's not just about design skills anymore. Like, actually, to be good in a design sprint, like, you have to find your voice. You have to be really good at, like, explaining the design. You know, actually explaining the design challenges within the project to people in a way that everyone gets, which is harder than it sounds.
Yeah. I think where we normally kind of crack on and get through production bits and sort of have a set amount of time to kind of comfortably section up bits of work to get finished to a deadline and then keep going. It's not a showpiece, and you've got to contribute to kind of the team effort to kind of shed some light on the actual vision.
Yeah, I guess it's a different challenge, isn't it? It's not about building the best thing necessarily, it's about building something so that we can test and validate it quickly, and actually that's the bit of value we're trying to get out of it.
It's more of a process than a delivery, and I'd say what the client's paying for the experience of being able to be involved in creating the vision for the product. The design sprint isn't necessarily the product.
One of the things I'd heard at a conference was about an MVP should be something you throw away at the end. Like, if you have that mindset, then it means you don't endlessly spend time tweaking small things to finesse it, because actually what you're really trying to do is create something you can learn from, rather than necessarily being the definitive solution to what you're trying to do. Right, how are we doing? We are, oh God, we've only got like 12 minutes left.
I don't want to start assuming what we need to do, because that wouldn't be very design sprint.
Follow the process.
Yeah.
Right, Ben, give us some questions.
Favourite design sprint of 2019?
Probably UK Connect.
Yeah.
Like, because he totally got it. I mean, most clients do, but I think, like, from day one, he enjoyed the process as much as we did, which just made it easier in a way.
I think the client can change the whole dynamic of a design sprint and how much you discover. I think UK Connect guys were really good. They embraced the process and contributed to it, but equally kind of trusted us to kind of guide them into where they are now. And I think what's come together is looking really sweet. I'd say the same with Corn Ferry. The guys came over from the States, and I think they bailed on Thursday because they were so tired. But it was such a good. I mean, I wasn't involved in it directly, but it was such a good design sprint from a design perspective. The work that came together was so good. The client was so impressed.
I think that was because that was later on in the year. It definitely felt like we'd hit our stride with that one, didn't it? Like, everything in terms of, like, the quality of output that was coming out of the team, like the process of how we were running the design sprint, everything was starting to feel second nature to a lot of people working in that design sprint. So it just flowed a lot better. I think that was part of the reason.
How do you choose who to bring into a sprint when you're looking at the client team?
In terms of people or the roles?
Roles.
So roles, I guess, is the easier one in that most projects require, most of the work we do requires the same kind of skill sets. You need someone representing design, someone representing engineering. There was definitely some of the earlier design sprints where it's not just having the right skill set, but it's having the right voice and being able to, I guess, articulate that stuff. And obviously some clients are really, you have very different personality types coming into some of those meetings. So sometimes it's a bit of, choosing the right team based on what you know about the customer who's coming in. Some are very much into the details, some are the complete opposite and just interested in the big picture, and so matching, I've done that wrong.
On a basic level, if you've got one of each department in, theoretically you're going to have the right opinions coming together, that's the optimum part of a project. I don't think there's anything wrong with approaching it differently and having intermittent opinions as the project's going, but having a mix of knowledge in the room from the very start, it definitely snowplows things and gets everything a lot more scoped at the beginning, which I think, again, certainly from a design point of view, it's good to have all that clarity at the beginning. Just having that kind of knowledge in the room at that time is really useful, because you could be coming up with something that's going to look fantastic, but the feasibility might be out of the question or out of the budget. So it's good for so many reasons to have a mix of job roles.
Rear bumper.
Rear bumper. Woo! That's the exhaust pipe.
Which bit do you enjoy the most? Which is the bit where you're just like, this is my favourite part of the design sprint, apart from the obvious final product?
I know this sounds really cheesy, but I like the fact that it's a really close-knit team, albeit not a long amount of time, but you're relying on each other to deliver something in 5 days. And I think that kind of bringing together is really a nice part of design sprints. At the same time, you end up working with people that you wouldn't normally always work with. So there's that aspect to it. But generally, it is fun trying to get together something in 2 days, design-wise. And we do push ourselves to do really good stuff, and the client always seems pretty chuffed to see it. So there's the reward at the end, but the hard work is actually pretty fun as well. I think the client loves to be involved. So having that relationship with them from the very beginning is really useful, and I think it does kind of pave the way for a really good relationship from a business point of view, but equally they love getting involved, and this kind of curated collaborative brief, we've said it before, just it helps both sides. And I think with some of our clients, they're actually really, their contributions have really helped sway how the product looks. Like someone like UK Connect, they get really involved. So yeah, definitely has helped relationships. That is drivable.
So we made a guy, and yeah, we're probably what, 2/3 of the way through. So another 10 minutes we might have done it.
The new Ferrari boat.